Hello, my name is Orhong. I'm delighted to present my research on the effects of neoliberalism on doctoral education in Mongolia. So Mongolia has highest number of universities per capita globally. We have 64 universities for a population of just over 3 million. The university enrollment rate is almost similar to the European average. We also have tons of doctoral students. So this more significant expansion suggested that Mongolia has decent human resources in the research and development sector. However, these figures do not reflect the country's research capacity. Mongolia has low research output, low innovation index, and deficiency in highly skilled professionals, and a low position in global university rankings. So this led to some burning questions. Why does a country with so many doctoral degree holders still lack research capacity? What is the true benefit of having so many universities and PhDs if they do not actively contribute to the knowledge creation and the country's development? So this paradox shows that research training is poor, among other factors. So I want to find out why this is happening. What are those socioeconomic factors causing this paradox? What is the unique context of Mongolia as a developing post-socialist, state socialist in an Asian country? What if all developing countries like Mongolia share the ideas, it enriches the global knowledge pool? Currently, the research world is unequal. Some countries are more dominant, but when developing countries research more, especially to address their unique challenges, it fills the gap. This benefits everyone. So this research is a part of my larger project on re-envisioning doctoral education in Mongolia. This also aligns with the UN's Sustainable Development Goal to strengthen the scientific and technological capabilities of developing countries through locally established doctoral training. So two research questions guiding my study. The first one is, what are the socioeconomic and political impacts on doctoral education in Mongolia? The second one is, what views do the stakeholders hold for doctoral education? I employed a qualitative research design, conducted interviews and comprehensive document analysis. I interviewed 38 key stakeholders, including students, faculty members, policymakers, and defense committee members to gather their insights. So since Mongolia transitioned from planned economy to market economy in 1990s, the so-called democratic but neoliberal agendas over the past 3 decades have shaped Mongolia's current doctoral education system. So what do I mean by neoliberalism? According to the scholars like Brown and Foucault, neoliberalism is best understood not simply as economic policy, but as governing rationality that disseminates, that prioritize like market values and metrics to every sphere of life and construes the human itself exclusively as Homo economicus. Although neoliberal policies in Mongolia differ from those in the West, we see that the common trends and effects of neoliberalism, such as increasing inequality, massive privatization, marketization, and diminishing value of public goods are all evident in Mongolia. Like many post-socialist, post-state socialist countries, Mongolia had little choice but, to implement the structural adjustment policy prescribed by donor organizations, international development agencies in the early 1990s. So neoliberal economists at that time believed that post-socialist countries needed to undergo a process known as shock therapy, which involved almost waging war on public goods, rapid dismantling of state enterprises, and massive privatizations for future benefits. However, this shock therapy never succeeded and failed and led to unprecedented social problems. So here are some initial findings from my research. In this presentation, I emphasize 2 neoliberal policies that have most adverse effect, had most adverse effects on doctoral education. The first one is the diminishing public goods, and the next policy is the privatization of higher education. So neoliberalism has radically transformed the purposes of universities and their human resources and how public universities governed in Mongolia. Knowledge in higher education is core public good, but due to the diminished public good policy by neoliberal agenda, the government severely cut the public funding for higher education, and only 0.1% of the GDP was allocated in research. During the communist era, they allocated 1% of the GDP to research and development, but in the neoliberal time, it is severely cut. They also introduced the fee, but did not grant autonomy to public universities to make their own decisions over tuition fees. As a result, Mongolian public universities are left with no choice but enroll masses to survive. Universities view doctoral students as a potential kind of another source of revenue, leading to less selective admission. There has been almost zero public funding supporting local doctoral education, so which resulted in less enrollments, less students in STEM fields, particularly due to the experimental work. That's quite costly, and that discouraged many individuals from pursuing doctorates in the STEM, natural science and engineering and technology fields. Inadequate faculty salaries also have made it difficult for universities to retain talented scholars. This further, led to loss of competent faculty to other sectors and brain drain, which has negatively impacted the quality of doctoral education. So basically, a supportive research culture is pretty much missing. So another impactful neoliberal policy was the privatization of higher education. This enabled for-profit universities to emerge in Mongolia, resulting in a massive increase in low-cost, low-quality private higher education institutions that treat higher education as a lucrative business. Many of these institutions turned into diploma mills, offering graduate programs without adequate human and material resources. These institutions, even politicians, pursued PhDs to enhance their social image during elections. Some of these institutions prioritize the interests of their own owners, businesses and politicians, focusing on profit and status rather than the core mission of universities, which is to seek truth through research and teaching. Doctoral education in Mongolia is influenced not only by neoliberal policies, but also by issues inherited from the socialist era, creating dual impact on the system. Despite Mongolia's transition to democracy 30 years ago, remnants of the old communist system persist. The failure of the shock therapy led to resistance against the new system and reinvention of the old socialist practices in new forms. Scholars like Hurt noted that most post-socialist countries have seen the emergence of highly differentiated set of varieties of capitalism, a kind of mutated system between neoliberalism and state socialism. So state universities still show signs of Soviet-style management with a top-down command structure, centralized control by the Ministry of Education and Science. Mongolian scholars are often silent about the corrupt system, likely due to the lingering fears from the state socialist era, when intellectuals were punished for criticizing the government. Academics seem to be subjugated by micropowers at their institutions. Academic merit in hiring and promotions has been overshadowed by political patronage and nepotism, causing many competent scholars to leave the country. This has led to a shortage of professors actively engaged in research and capable of supervising doctoral students. Although reforms have aimed to unify teaching and research in universities, the system remains largely Soviet in structure. The Academy of Science, which was used to be solely kind of responsible for research during the socialist time, still exists, but with the weak research output. Many universities aim to be research universities, but most focus more on teaching, affecting the quality of doctoral education. The separate system of conferral, which is inherited from the Soviet time, also persists, creating bureaucratic burdens and contributing to corrupt academic practices. So now I would like to draw your attention to the doctoral students' perspectives about the current doctoral education system. This provided rich insights into how the system is affected by the unfavorable research policies in Mongolia. The total number of PhD students is just over 5,000, outnumbering female students. This figure shows that research interest in STEM fields are less attractive. These features are quite, opposite of the global trend of rising doctoral students in the science and technology and natural sciences. Most of the current doctoral students are faculty members, the majority of whom are pursuing PhD to secure their positions in academia. However, many of them prolonged over 10 years, feel stuck in stress, studying while working full-time with a minimal supervision and a lack of resources like a proper labs. Some even mentioned corruption in academia. So they urge for fundamental change. So what can we do about it? This is precisely what I want to delve into by collaborating with the doctoral education community and stakeholders in Mongolia. The rich data provided by the stakeholders serves as a foundation for exploring these possibilities. So there are 5 major factors on which country research capacity depends on. All these factors are interrelated and closely linked to doctoral education. So to sum up my presentation, my research on the socioeconomic impacts on doctoral education reveals that while Mongolia has expanded higher education with many doctoral students and research training availabilities, it lacks 3 crucial elements, other 3 crucial elements. The first one is the adequate research funding, a system to retain researchers, and supportive research culture. So these issues call for holistic strategies and long-term policies involving all stakeholders, including government, companies, universities, and academic communities. So here's the list of the references which I use in my presentation. And thank you so much for your great attention to my poster presentation. And please feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Bye.